San Diego's Jazz 88.3. And the new #1 disc in jazz, it's Jimmy Cobb's The Original Mob. Peter Bernstein on guitar, Brad Meldau on piano, John Weber on bass. Part of those new Smoke Sessions releases that have just been tearing up the charts. Recorded this one February 3rd of this year at Smoke Jazz Club in New York City. The new #1 on the Jazz Week Jazz album charts. And you can get a replay of that coming up a little bit later on the jazz88.org blog. Just look for The New Jazz Thing. You're listening to The New Jazz Thing. My name is Vince Outlaw. According to an AllMusic.com artist biography by Scott Yanow, Eric Dolphy was a true original with his own distinctive styles on alto, flute, and bass clarinet. His music fell into the avant-garde category, yet he did not discard chordal improvisation altogether, although the relationship of his notes to the chords was often pretty abstract. While most of the other free jazz players sounded very serious in their playing, Dolphy's solos came across as ecstatic and exuberant, something that I definitely agree with. The Antar Martin aggregation, which includes, among others, Kamau Kenyatta, will be performing an upcoming show in tribute of the music of Eric Dolphy, and joining us to talk about that this evening is bassist Antar Martin. Antar, welcome to the New Jazz Thing.
Hey, thanks, Vince. How you doing?
Doing real well, and let's start out by you telling us where the gig is going to be at, date, place, time, and cost and tickets and such.
Okay, so our show, the Eric Dolphy tribute, is going to be at 98 Bottles on Friday, July 25th. Our first show is at 8 p.m. We also have a second show at 9:15 p.m. The tickets are $12 online and $15 at the door.
So the Antar Martin aggregation, as this group is being put together, is this a group that's been working together, or is this put just together for this tribute show?
Well, this particular group has been put together specifically for this show. For this show, I have Jesse Audello, who's playing sax, all the saxophones, flute, and also bass clarinet, and Kamau Kenyatta on piano, Derek Cannon on trumpet, and Matthew Smith on drums.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about Antar, how you got introduced to the music of Eric Dolphy.
Well, Eric Dolphy, he was a person who was introduced to me by my father. He grew up listening to like a lot of the Blue Note recordings and things like that. So it was pretty much standard for my household.
And why a tribute to Eric? There's a lot of musicians out there, and Eric is not a bass player, and you're a bass player.
Well, I've always had a gravitation towards things in the lower end of the spectrum, so bass clarinet really spoke to me in his situation as well. And then it also happened to be 50 years that Eric Dolphy's passed as well, and it's also the 50 years of the Out to Lunch album, and as well as the Last Date concert as well.
And then the repertoire that you guys are going to be playing for this are you featuring music all from that Out to Lunch album, or are you featuring other compositions also?
Well, most of it's coming from Out to Lunch, and then a few charts are also coming from Outward Bound, and then also a few other charts that Eric was featured on by Thelonious Monk and Mingus as well.
Do you consider yourself someone who's kind of looked at a lot of the music of Eric Dolphy and has kind of explored that?
Yeah, definitely in recent times, I've explored his music a lot more, and I've also explored music similar to his, such as the music of Steve Lehman, who's a New York-based saxophonist, who he also does the thing where he gets away from the typical type of chord progressions and harmonies and things like that too. So,
So then you are an artist. How long have you been here in San Diego?
I've been in San Diego for about 5.5 years.
And who do you play a lot around? Tell us a little bit about how you make a living as a musician here in town.
Well, making a musician living here in San Diego, I pretty much freelance and also play with, like I said, the Antar Martin aggregation, and also play with Joe Garrison's Night People and Coast Bop as well, and as well as a bunch of other various projects too.
And what venues around town can people see you and hear your music?
I'm typically heard over at 98 Bottles on Sunday afternoons with Matthew Smith and Ed Kornhauser, and also play at the Turquoise on Friday nights with Louis Valenzuela as well sometimes.
Hmm. And how did you get introduced to jazz music? You were just talking about your father playing and or playing music around the house. Was he a musician?
Well, I mean, he wanted to be a musician, but things just didn't work out. But otherwise, he might as well be considered a musician as much music he's been listening to his entire life. So he's got a pretty broad vocabulary of jazz music, I would say.
And did you study formally? How did you progress as a musician?
I studied classical when I was in high school, and also studied jazz as well. And I also had some friends who also did the jazz thing in high school, so they helped me along as well.
Mm-hmm. So, what are your expectations? Are you hoping with this group and with this music to get to some places that you haven't been, exploring some parts of Eric that you haven't done?
Well, at this point, I'm purely in it for the music, just to see where it goes.
Okay. Well, we're going to end this evening with something from Eric, and this is a great pick that you made from the Outward Bound disc from 1960, featuring pianist Jackie Byard, who has a new disc out of previously unreleased solo work that we're going to be featuring a little bit later in the show. So that's a great tie-in. But tell folks why you dug this tune GW that we're going to be featuring.
GW, I mean, the reason why I like this one is because the chord progressions on this particular chart aren't really typical, so to speak. I kind of relate it kind of in a sense where Stevie Wonder just went off on his own direction and just did things entirely his way, and I feel like Eric Dolphy did the same thing with this chart as well.
Excellent. Well, remind folks again, one more time, when the date is and where it is and where they can find out more information about it.
Okay, it is July 25th, 2014 at 98 Bottles, and the information can be found at www.98bottlessd.com.
Excellent. Well, Antar, thank you so much for being here tonight, and I really appreciate it. Good luck with the gig and with all the things that follow on from it.
Hey, thank you, Vince. Appreciate it.
From the Outward Bound disc of Eric Dolphy's quintet, this is GW. You can find a link to more information about the gig and Antar Martin aggregation at 98 Bottles out on the blog tonight at jazz88.org/blog. This is San Diego's Jazz 88.3. There you go.
Hey, thanks.